Hi everyone. The purpose of this video is to provide a makeup lecture for the classes that we will be missing next week because of my travel. It will also help you get started with the project, our first project, because I will provide some demos on how to use AWS command line and the SDK. Okay. So I will just go jump to the slides that I have here about the command line and the SDK, the new materials. But you should have already, if you are online students, should have already watched the videos for the previous slides because they are necessary for you to understand what are we going to do here right now. Okay, this is the one. Okay, so what is the command line interface? So this is so the different ways to interact with AWS. The most intuitive way is, of course, the management console, which is interface provided by through the web. Okay. Uh, but if you want to programmably interact with AWS, okay, then the command line tool is a very convenient interface to use, okay, to work with AWS. Okay. Because they are, in fact, AWS provides a rich suite of command line tools that you can use to interact with different uh, AWS services that Avalon provides. Okay. So it's very good, very easy for you to do some quick prototyping, okay, and the quick control of your instances and the other resources, okay, such as S3 resource, not necessarily EC2 instance. Okay. You can control different types of resources that Amazon gives you, okay, using the command line tools. Okay. So let's start with this one. Okay. In fact, in your project, you also need to use this interface to implement part of your assignment. So it is a unified tool for managing AWS services. It is available for most of the major operating systems, including Windows, Linux, OS X, and Unix. Here I will give you a demo using Linux. And for the project, you also require to implement using the Linux command line interface. Remember, it has to be Linux for a project implementation. Now, so this is important. Okay, you need to create an IAM user for using the command lines. Okay, later on when we do the demo on the SDK, I will emphasize this again. You also need to use an IAM user for the SDK. Okay, so in fact, you only need to create one IAM user for your entire project, okay, including both the command line, including both the part that uses the command line interface and the part that uses the SDK. And this IAM user needs to be a power user so that it can have enough privilege to access your resources, including not only viewing your resources but also controlling your resources. Okay. Uh, do not use your root credentials, okay, to interact with your resource your AWS resources. Okay, we already explained this quite a bit in the previous lecture. If you missed that, please go back to the notes you made or the video that we had from the previous lecture on what our AIM user really means, why it is important. Okay. All right. So the most of the materials, okay, there's a lot of materials that you can find about command line interface from AWS. Okay. So in particular, there's a user guide. I just did a link here. And there's a complete reference of all the command line interfaces, command line tools. Okay. So let me create this one. So this is the command line interface user guide. This tells you how to set up, how to install the command line interface, how to configure it, and how to use it right away. So we'll be following this user guide in here, okay, in this demo that we're gonna do here. So if you Google CLI, so you can find more documentations. documentation here. Right, so the user guide and the command line reference guide. Okay, that's the other link that is I included in my slide, okay, which is a complete list of all the command lines that you can use. Okay, you can do a search for any command that you can use here. Okay, so let's start. Okay, let's get started. So I will do the demo on my virtual machine. Obviously, I'm using a Windows laptop for my lectures, but I do have this virtual machine. Let me bring up. Okay, I need to. Let me reorganize my terminals a little bit. Change the font size. This should make it a little bit bigger to make sure that everybody can see clearly. Okay, this should be big enough. Alright. Let me open the command line interface here so we can see it while we're working on it at the same time. Okay, so the way that I will do this is that I will do it step by step, okay, with you. Okay, so if so I suggest you to work on this at the same time while you are watching my video. Okay, you can try it on your own Linux setup, your laptop or your virtual machine. Okay, if you don't have it now ready, you can pause the video and get ready. So when you continue, you can do it with me. Okay, or if you're impatient, you can just fast forward this video and so you can have a quick glance of what I'm doing here. Okay, and you can then try it on your own later. Okay, so that's the benefit of having a video here. Let's go to the user guide again. We're gonna go to get setup. So obviously the first thing you need to do, I assume you already have an AWS account, so we don't have to do that. Okay, and then you need to get an access key ID and the secret and the access key. So remember, this is supposed to be your IAM user's credentials. Okay, and this IAM user needs to be a power user. So once you have created this IAM user, and then you need to download the credentials from the IAM interface, the console, okay, IAM console, okay. That is a prerequisite for the following steps. You must have this IAM credentials before you can continue. And if you don't have it, again pause the video and finish it, and then resume the video. Next step is to install the AWS command line tool package. Yeah. So Linux is pretty straightforward to install. Let's just go to Linux. You know, do some recording, so since I'm scrolling into this now. This is Linux. Right. So here basically you just need to download it from this link. Okay. You can use the curl command, or you can just use wget. The way I did, I use wget. Right? So that this is the no, this is how I use the how I get the WD, the JDK. Let me see, bundle zip. So this is how I I've done this in the session as well. So you can just wget, you do it. Right. So let's downloading. It's pretty small. Okay, after download it, unzip it, okay, and install it. Okay, the way to install it, just run this command. If you go to AWS CLI bundle, okay, you see this install command that install. Okay. So if you're working on own Linux box, you can install it using the sudo command. Okay, the only permission, the only privilege that it requires is actually to just install the tools into /usr/local and /usr/local/bin. Okay, so that's in fact the only privilege that it requires. Okay, it needs access to those privileged directories. So if you don't have the root privilege or the admin privilege and Linux box, that's fine. You can just install the command line tool on your own directory. We will have the control, and by changing the -i and the -b parameters here. Okay, in fact, in the tutorial here, I actually explain how to do it without the supervision. Okay, this is actually what I just said. Okay, so here I have the super privilege, so I can do it. Um, okay, so that's it. Well, this message that you saw here is only because I installed it, already installed it. Okay, when I was trying preparing for this lecture, for this video. But this is essentially what it is to install it. After the installation, next step is to configure it. The configuration is the step that is critical because you need to use your IAM credentials to do it. Okay. So the first time that you configure it, you can run this command AWS configure, right? So what this command does is that it will prompt you to input, as you can see from this web page here, and make it slightly bigger. It will prompt you for the key ID and the key. Okay, remember the IAM credential is a pair. Okay, it includes a key ID and the key. Okay, and then it will also ask you the default region that you want to work with. Okay, in my case, it's US dash east dash one. Okay, in your case, that depends on where your instances are located by default. You can change your answer here accordingly. Okay, so most likely your instance will also be in the east region. Okay, one of the east regions. And the last question here is what would be the output? Because when you run the command line, it will interact with the AWS, and if it works successfully, it will return some results and print it out to the screen. So this is to ask you whether you want to print it out in JSON format or you want to print it out in text format. Okay, so you can change it as you wish. Okay, so after you're done with these steps, okay, then what's going to happen is that this command line tool will put these configurations into a file. Okay, the file is located here. If you go to your home directory, okay, to CD and go to .aws, okay, it's a hidden folder called .aws. You go down here, you see two files. These two are very important files. Okay, so in fact you can modify these files. These two files manually. You don't have to use the AWS config command. Okay, but the first time you install AWS command line tool, you can just run the AWS config command. Okay, but later it might turn out to be more useful to modify these two files directly. So what's in the config file? What's in config file is actually, let's just look at default one first. Okay, the profile one I explain shortly. The default one has the answers that I provided when I run AWS config. Okay, the answers for what should be the format I want for the output. I choose text, and what is the default region that I want to work with. I chose US East -1. Okay, now let's look at the other file. Right, so this file, the credential is the file that stores the credentials that I want to use. Okay, look at the default one first. So for the default one, this is the access ID for my IAM user, and this is the key for my IAM user. Okay, so in fact, this is indeed an IAM user, a power user, and this is not the credential of my root account. Okay. So this is important that you make these credentials correctly stored here. Okay, if you make any mistake, then that will cause problem. You won't be able to talk to your AWS. Okay, so if it ever happens that you have a connection refused error, for example, okay, then chances are it's because the credentials you put here are wrong. Yeah. So especially for the key, this is a particularly long string. You make sure that you don't miss any character or modify any character by mistake. Okay. So next thing I want to explain here is this profile option. So in fact, okay, so the command line tool is pretty flexible. It allows you to configure different IAM users, okay, different credentials, okay, for the command line tool to use. Okay, that's so-called profiles. Okay. So this default one that we just saw is the default profile. If you don't, so when you run the command line tool and without specifying any particular profile to use, it will use the default profile. Okay. And the second one here that you see has a name root. In fact, this is the credentials for my root account. Okay, I put it here just to try it out. Okay, but again, you should always make your IAM users credentials default one. Okay, and the root one don't use it. Okay, unless it's absolutely necessary. Okay. So same thing here. If you look at go back to my config file, you see I have two profiles. The default profile, which is for my IAM user. Okay, and the root profile. Okay, so it says here root profile root. Okay, and for the root profile, um, it's the same. Actually, I have the same settings as the IAM user profile. Okay, that's how it is. So like I said, you can just simply modify these two files manually if you want to change any particular profile or either profile, or you can follow this example here. You can also use the AWS config command to add a profile. You can just do -- profile followed by the name of the profile you want to give it to you want to assign. Okay. All right. And then there are some environmental variables that you can set. Okay. Also for the credentials. Let me see. Yeah, so in fact I set it too. Okay. So I set AWS. Right. So this is the key, and this is the previous is the key ID, and this is actually the second one is actually the key. Yeah. So you can if you use a bash shell, you can set it by just modifying this file bash rc file. Okay, that's how I did it. I put it in the end. If you see these two export commands, that's how I set these two environment variables. Okay, the first export command export this ID parameter name with this value for the parameter. Okay, the second one is for the key. Okay, this is how you do it in bash. If you use a different kind of shell environment, it's slightly different. Okay. Right. So, but this is not absolutely necessary because actually, as explained here, okay, uh, so the command line, so we run the command line tool, okay, it will try to look for the credentials and the configuration settings. Okay, for credentials, what the is the credential that you use to access your AWS resource, and the configuration setting is those two parameters we saw. What should be the output format and what the default region you want to default zone you want to work with. Okay. But so the command line will look for the credentials and configuration settings in this following order. You first look for command line options. Okay, so in fact you can supply the configuration settings and the credentials. Uh, uh, if actually the profile names of credentials as command line arguments to the AWS command line tool. And if that is not the case, if it is not specified, we'll run the command line tool, then it will look for the environment variables. And if these environment variables are not set, then it will look for the credential files, okay, in the .aws hidden folder, okay. And finally, it will look for the CLI configuration file. Uh, well, that's the same here. So we will look for the credential file, the configuration file, and finally the instance profile credentials. Okay. So just make sure that you have the correct settings in .aws credentials and .aws configure. Then you'll be fine. Okay? In fact, you don't need to set the environment variables. Okay. And if you happen to use both, then make sure that you remember these are two are different things. Okay. In case you change your the files in the .aws folder, but you forgot to change your environment variables, then you may see that your change is not effective because the environment variables are used first before a CLI even tries to read those two files in the .aws folder. Okay, so enough of all this installation configuration. Okay, so now let's look at the tutorial. Okay, so in fact we will not do this tutorial, but because this tutorial is give you some commands that you can use uh, to create an instance. Okay, I want to show you an example. Okay, to start an instance. This is slightly different. Let's go straight to Resolute. Okay, so this tutorial actually goes over the other steps we did before. Uh, so this particular tutorial. Okay, you can read it on your own. It's for launching a new instance. So for that case, you would have to create a key pair. You have to create a security group, and then finally you'll be able to start the instance. Okay, it's more involved than what I want to show you here. Next, so let's do my demo. Very simple demo. Okay, I want to start a pre-existing instance. Okay, it's so the command. Okay, generally the command that you need to do is AWS something. Yeah, it all starts with AWS, but then you can follow hierarchy of options. Okay, what that means is that AWS is the root command. Okay, and then depend on what particular cloud service you want to access, you follow the AWS by EC2 or S3 or something else. Okay, so how do you know which one you should use? Well, it's very simple. Okay, they all follow the same format. Whenever you need help, okay, you start with the command that you already know and then follow by help. Okay, so now my question is that say I don't know what I should use if I want to interact with the EC2. Okay, I do AWS help. Okay, in AWS help, you see, you give me all the options that I have for AWS. Okay, so all this all here, they stand for options. Okay, so the one that I should use is EC2. Okay. So I do AWS EC2 because I want to start an EC2 instance. Okay. Now, When I do this, then there's also a bunch of another command that you can do with AWS EC2. So now I don't know. Now really I don't know what command I should use to start an instance. Okay, so I do AWS EC2 help. Okay, give in the list I can list of all the operators I can use under AWS EC2. Okay, I look for start instance. See, as simple as that, right? So in general, this is how you look for a particular command you want to use. And web is more easy. It's easier because you can search. Here, document. Let's go to documentation. You go to CLI reference. Okay, and here you can search. So if you want to start an instance, okay, let's see, start instance. I haven't tried. I hope I don't know how it works. Well, see, I'll give you some responses. All right. Okay, so now you get the idea, right? So on the web interface is easier. If you want to search, you can just go there. Okay, or if you want just find out the command, just find the help using the command line itself. Just do as I said. Okay, start with the command you already know and follow that by help. Okay. So now AWS EC2 start instances extension help. How do I use this command? Okay. So the way to use it is start instances followed by the instance ID. And that's it. That's the only thing I need to do. Okay. So now I see what is working correctly. Let me open my EC2 console, AWS console. It's nothing. Okay. All right, let me go to EC2. All right, very simple demo. Okay, so this instance is already running. Apparently, I forgot to stop it. That's not good. Okay, remember I told you that always stop instances when you don't need them to conserve your resources. Because even if your instance is idle, it will still incur charges. So let me stop it. Let's stop. Let's create a strong command followed by instance ID, right? So the instance ID is here. Wait for it to stop. Make sure that. Stopped. Okay. Come back here. It has responded. Okay. So I don't have this today, yeah, because I installed in Essential, so it's a short call. Okay. Anyway, so next point. EC2 start instance like this. How we did that the first one. Instance without dash. Okay. Make sure we do the right thing. So it should be dash dash instance like this followed by the value. Okay. Like this. Followed by the ID. Oh, there we go. it again. Okay. Instance. Okay. Question S. Try. Okay. So if this is working, this is good. So as it tells us that it's trying to start in distances. Okay. The current state now is pending. Okay. Remember between stopped and rounding, there's a pending state. Okay. And the previous state is stopped. So everything looks right. Okay. So it's gonna take a little bit of time for this to be reflected on the console. Always touch is already running. So it's faster than expected. So see, it's already running. Right? Remember before I manually stopped it from the web console interface, right? And then I started from the command line interface. Okay, so this is a really trivial example, but this, just I think hopefully through this demo, you learn how to find help if you need. Right? If you study command line, you don't know how to use. Hopefully, you already know how to find the command that you need to use, okay, and the options for the command, and then and all the other command lines that this command line tool uh, provides, okay, are all quite straightforward to use. Okay, all right. So let me stop here so we can go on to the next demo.